Ladies and gentlemen, Kirk Thatcher and Daren Dochterman, the Weirded Beardos. And as it was foretold, we are here.
Hello.
The Weirded Beardos, let me introduce you to Kirk Thatcher.
Let me introduce you to Daren Dochterman, or as I like to call him, Dr. Darenman.
It's very creative.
It's a thing.
Very creative, and I didn't at all hear it in fifth grade.
That's about my level of humor.
How are you, Kirkula?
I'm doing all right. It's Christmas Eve, everybody. It's not for you listeners, unless it's a year later. But what's funny is we've been talking about doing this for what, like 6 months?
Almost, just about,
yeah.
And only now, have we found the time.
Well, yeah.
At the end of all things.
I think part of it is we do these cons together and we just sit next to each other and riff and get stupid and silly and talk about real things and talk about no things. And, we both have such tremendous egos that we said, who would love this? The entire rest of the world.
Of course. That's how it goes.
So it won't be Trek focused for your friends, and it won't be Muppet focused for my friends. But I mean, we can certainly talk about it, but I don't want people to think it's a Trek broadcast or
it is both and neither.
And neither, yeah. I mean, between the two of us, as you texted me recently, we have 75 years of.
Yeah.
I mean, if you put all our credits together, people would be like, why are they doing this? Why aren't they rich and retired?
And that sort of answers that question.
Merry Christmas.
God bless us, everyone.
Everyone, particularly those with pensions.
Or penchants.
Pension, yes. Yes, I like to gamble with an O. I do not gamble with an O.
That's right. Yes. Right now, it looks like you look like to gambon.
Yes, Michael Gambon. That's one of my least appreciated impressions. I'm an alcoholic. It's very similar. Alcoholics have more fun than wizards.
Completely a rumor. We don't know that for sure. It is unfounded.
I never was didn't hate the books. I just read like the first one and was like, okay, this is a lot.
It happened after us, so
yeah. I mean,
we missed it.
I appreciate it, but
yeah.
I guess I don't know if this was retcon. Was he gay in all the books, or did it come out like in the last book or something? Because I know there was a bit of a kerfuffle about it. Like,
he's gay?
Oh yeah, you didn't, not Michael Gambon, but I mean, maybe Michael Gambon is. I don't know, but
I don't know.
I know Dumbledore was. I'm like, oh.
I mean, it didn't look like he was getting much of anything in the movies.
No, well, he was old, so he quit it. Instead of hit it, he quit it. But in the one of the more recent films, they allude to it when somebody else is playing younger Dumbledore, and they talk about his. I don't know if it's considered illicit or secret or just nobody cares.
Well, I just find it funny that if Dumbledore is gay, how can Snape not be?
Yes, well, that's a very good question. He's just nobody would have sex with him. He's just
right.
He's so loveless. I mean, he was such a broken man, I guess, because of what happened with Harry's mother.
It's all because of Harry Potter.
Harry Potter, yeah. If you want to do a good, what's his face?
Talk through your nose.
Or glue the tip of your tongue to the roof of your mouth and talk like this. It's actually a British accent I've learned, because one of the puppeteers on Dinosaurs, his name was Dave Greenaway. He talked like that, and it's I don't know if it's an affectation or like
just how they
like a lisp develop. Or some natural voice thing, because I don't know any Americans, but it's a bit of Alfred Hitchcock too.
Well, sure.
You took the tip of your tongue to the roof of your mouth and talk slowly with the British accent, you sound like Alfred Hitchcock. So I believe
Joseph Yoshinobu Takagi.
So this is the great joy you'll experience listening to our mediocre to definitely impressive impressions talking about all sorts of nonsense. So how are you? So you were a cat dad, and I know in your new apartment.
I am not anymore.
They're not allowing.
But you have become one.
I've always been a cat dad. I just didn't really.
You just didn't have cats.
No, I did. I've had cats since 1996.
Don't lie to me, Thatcher.
I have. I had cats and birds for a long time. 3 birds and 4 cats.
Cats and birds living together.
Human sacrifice. Yeah, that was my home was a constant state of detente with the birds on one end of the house. The one thing good about a ranch house is you can keep your pets that might kill each other from different sides of the house. So all the cats were on my kind of the bedroom side of the house, and then the birds were on more of the family kitchen side. So when they would scream and yell, like you barely could hear it. So anyway, enough about my house. Let's talk about my beautiful living room.
Your beautiful fake living room.
Beautiful fake living room, which I have on a loop, which is actually kind of marvelous. It's not even a GIF.
It's lovely. It's a little video you got going there.
Little video. That's a deep cut. If anyone write in if you recognize where that video comes from.
We got lots of videos coming for you.
Give you a hint. It's from
Jerry Todd here.
Oh, now you gave it away.
Yeah, but no, it doesn't give it away because if they don't know, they still don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, people might be like, "Oh God, I know that. That's from All right.
Yeah. We're not going to say. Just write in.
That's right.
No, don't write in. There's no.
Yeah, we need an email address so people can write in questions. I'm sure there's burning questions, or at least burning
something. Yeah. Don't blame us.
Well, you can blame me. I get around.
That's not what I heard. What?
No, I get around. It means I'm getting fatter as I go. Oh, so anyway,
Kirk likes to stick his hand up puppets.
Well, I got it.
Who doesn't though?
I only did it for the money. Yeah, actually, I only. What's funny is I really didn't do it for the Muppets, which is the longest career company I had, the longest lasting job I had.
Lasting gig.
Yeah. But before that, I did with Salacious Crumb and the Star Wars special. And Gremlins both 1 and 2, and I think there's another thing in there I'm forgetting, or I did some.
Is Salacious Crumb actually a gremlin?
No, but they're related. They were. Chris Walas designed the Gremlins, but Tony McVeigh designed and built Salacious.
Right.
But Tony also sculpted the hero version along with Randy Dutra of the Gremlins. So Tony had his fingers in both of those proverbial puppet pies. Yes. So there's a trivia question for all you nerds out there. I'm sure this is mainly lawyers and doctors and psychologists listening to this, not nerds.
Well, I'm eternally fascinated about your stories of not only working with Henson and the company, but your early days at ILM that started in what, 82? 81?
Literally the beginning, like March of 81. I got the job when I was 18 and had my birthday between getting the job and moving up there. So I can technically say I was just 18 when I got hired. But by the time I moved up there, I would have been 19 for about a month.
Right. So you were legal.
I was legal, yeah. It was mainly it was just a hedonistic sexual paradise.
Well, we know that.
I swear I think there were 3 women at ILM when I was there. I'm straight if anyone was curious. And so there was slim pickings if you were a straight man.
Slim Pickens worked there.
Yes. We gotta get a whole shitload of cyanacrylate. No, it was funny though. But what the other, here's a tidbit about ILM back in those days. I would say half the guys either dated or married waitresses because they're the only women you would meet when you would work, 6 days a week or 5 or 6 days a week, 12-hour days. I mean,
and they're the only women who are even slightly kind to you.
It's true. There weren't a lot of like Hollywood groupies like, oh, you work. I mean, even in LA, you say I work in visual effects. They're like, okay. So what kind of car do you drive?
Yeah, right.
Well, you have amazing stories with, Jim Cameron. Jesus, you've done how many films with? Do you work?
I only did one with him.
Just one? Okay.
Yeah.
It was a big one.
It was a big one, and it just got its big streaming re-release. The Abyss.
The Abyss, I thought, isn't it? About the woman who runs a nunnery.
How do you solve a problem like Jim Cameron?
So you've got to have. I mean, I've never heard glowing reviews of what a kind and gentle man he is. Now, I have friends who work with him fairly regularly, and they say, as long as you deliver and you don't lie to him,
as long as you do what you're supposed to do,
he's fine
and are capable of it. And not trying to pull something over.
Right. And it's funny. I have other friends who are directors. I mean, when you get to that level and people lie to you just to get your name on their resume or something, I think.
Yeah.
But I know he has, as a couple. I mean, I have some good friends who are very well-known directors who have dressed down people in front of the crew, which I think is, unless they're being jerks in front of everybody, I think that's kind of unconscionable. At least I would never do that because it's hard. I mean, again, I tend to be pretty forgiving of people's foibles. I mean, again, if they're lying or just faking it, but I still wouldn't dress them down in front of the crew. I don't know if it teaches people a lesson. Yeah. I don't know.
If you know, putting it bluntly, if you're a fuck up, you need to be dressed down in front of the crew.
Really?
Yeah.
I just think it's funny. I had one of my good friends who's a director tell me on my first directing job, I said, do you have any advice? He said, fire somebody the first week.
Well, like, yeah, that's the Coppola school.
Yeah. Okay. Well, he didn't attribute it to Francis. He said, fire someone the first week, or whoever's screwing up, and it could be a minor infraction, yell at them in front of the crew, and just so everyone knows you mean business. I'm like, oh God, but what if nobody's really screwing up? And he said,
you
well,
have to change the rules.
Pick somebody. He's like, just pick someone who's just, not paying attention or whatever. It's just not in my nature. And it was funny was the one person who really needed dressing down was one of the performers. And it turned out they weren't aware that they were being completely difficult to work with. They were just kind of in their head. But
right.
And my AD came up to me the first week, and she had not had any participation in like fire somebody, but she said after like 3 days, so you're going to fire him, right? I can't. He's the only person that does these characters. I can't fire him on the third day of the shoot. So it is. I think. I don't know. It's funny to me, or at least intriguing, that friends of mine who are sweet guys with great sense of humors, great senses of humor, great humors, right. great bodily humors, that I'm told could be monsters on set and, swear and yell and huge, terrible moods. I'm not wired that way, and I'm not throwing any shade at them. I get it's a hard job, and there are a lot of people who obfuscate and lie and, try and pull, like you said, pull something over on.
Well, see, that's the funny thing about working with Jim Cameron. When he's not working actually on a movie, he's actually very cool to hang out with.
Yeah, that's well, he's obviously smart, an amazing artist.
Totally, yeah.
I mean, just the work he's done, completely ignoring his film work, as doing bathyspheres and deep sea diving and creating his own sub that could go to the Marianas Trench. I mean, his own money, and I guess he works with companies that do it. It's not like
and his brother is brilliant.
Yeah,
his brother Mike.
I don't even know about Mike. Tell us about Mike Cameron, won't you?
Mike Cameron is the quiet Cameron, who actually designed the underwater scooter that they used as a camera platform.
In the Abyss, or in?
Yes, on the Abyss.
Oh wow!
And
that was up in Canada, right? In a tank?
Not in Canada, in South Carolina.
Oh, for some reason I thought you guys were in Canada. Oh, okay.
No, because Cameron is Canadian. Right,
but I thought. Wait, so this tank was not in Wilmington, in South Carolina.
In South Carolina, in a city called Gaffney, which is right next to Spartanburg, where they had the BMW plant.
Was it built, and it was built for this film, or was it a Navy testing?
It was an unfinished nuclear power plant. It had never been operational. They had never finished the containment vessel.
But it had the deep pool.
The big deep pool, which was like 270 feet in diameter. And
60 feet deep, 80 feet deep?
Something like 60 feet, I think. But they retrofit it to hold water by spraying inches of gunite on the inside.
Sure.
And fit it with filtering and pumping and all sorts of things. And there was the main tank, and then there was the secondary tank, which was next to it, which was sort of rectangular.
The kids' tank.
The kids' tank, yeah.
Was that for flooding sets or for?
Well, that was for the moon pool set sat above that, and the submarine sets were all in that. The only set that was in the main tank was the deep core exterior.
Deep core exterior. Wow. I remember the first movie I saw as a kid that had anything to do even similar was Hello Down There, which is a great campy movie from the late 60s with Tony Randall
Yeah.
Very young. I think he's like 18 to 20. Richard Dreyfuss
Oh, right.
playing a teenager who's in a band with his siblings. And there's a great, and so when I was a kid, I was big into science, and I know, shocking, I was nerdy. But I was fascinated by Tektite, which was this underwater living experiment, which is what this movie was based on. The writers thought, hey, that'd be a crazy thing if a family, it's always a family, if a family went down to live underwater.
Why?
So Tony
Why
Randall,
would you do that?
yeah, it was Tony Randall and Jamie Lee Curtis's mom.
Janet Leigh.
Janet Leigh was his wife, and Richard Dreyfuss and a couple other kids are.
Wow.
I think Phil Silver's in it. It's a great cast. It's goofy as hell, but you know, they have a pet dolphin or seal. And but anyway, Richard Dreyfuss, I know you met him recently. If I ever get to meet him, I want to say, hey, do you want to sing the Hey Little Goldfish with me? Because
oh my God,
there's a scene where he's playing guitar and he said, hey guys, got this great idea for a new hit single, or a new song. And there's 3 songs in the movie, and they were written by some songwriter, but Richard Dreyfuss had to lip sync to some guy whose voice sounds nothing like him. So it goes like, check it out. It goes like this. And it goes, hey, little goldfish, where you going to? And it's like this twangy Oklahoma voice from a guy, obviously in his mid-30s. And it's a really cute song. It's dumb. But anyway, I remember that movie. So then, and it was about the same thing, people living underwater in these underwater habitats.
Right.
Then when, and so they, it was, what's his name from Florida, Tor Johnson,
the guy who produced
yeah,
Flipper.
Yes, Tor. Well, I can't remember his last name.
I don't remember.
Write in and tell us. I'm sure if only we had some device that could just say, "Hey Google." There it is. Who produced Hello Down There? I think he was also involved in The Creature of the Black Lagoon.
I don't know.
It says, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if you're talking to me, so I'll disregard your question.
Oh, good. That's good.
Already snarky.
My AI assistant is ignoring me.
Yeah, well, get in line, pal. Obviously, she's a female.
Well, obviously.
Yeah, I've learned.
That's fascinating because, obviously Dreyfuss was an expert in oceanographic things in a later film.
Yeah.
Can't quite remember the name of that, but.
Oh, yeah. There were, and it wasn't a goldfish. It was another fish.
Yeah.
The thing they were.
They're all going to
die. I wonder if anyone asked him to sing that on that set. Hey, man, you want to sing Hey Little Gold?
I bet you they didn't.
I don't know. He doesn't seem like a guy who loves to joke around. I don't know. I mean, he seems just pleasant enough, but he doesn't seem goofy.
Yeah. Well, at least in those days, he was very serious.
Yeah.
And he's still serious, but he has a humorous side.
I rode an elevator with him, and I just didn't want to be like, I know who you are. It's good.
You should have said, I think we're going to need a bigger elevator.
So many things went through. I just want to, I wanted to look at all the buttons and go, this means something.
Yeah, right. This is important.
This is important. This means Ronnie. Yeah. So there you go. Deep weird cuts. So you're working on that movie.
I'm working on The Abyss, and obviously this was the first real job I had. Because I got involved when my roommate by the name of Van Ling became Jim Cameron's research assistant.
Okay.
And the project he was researching was for The Abyss, and they were getting deep into finding the people who were responsible for the fluid breathing systems and all that stuff that made Cameron interested in the subject back when he was in high school. And they actually found the scientist responsible for it, and they tracked him down, and they got all the information of how to get the material and what to do, and so they were able to do the experiment on screen with the rats. There was 4 of them. But through Van being a research assistant, I was able to get a job building study models for the art department when they were still in Los Angeles. And there was only a handful of...
Was Lou Zudavern working on that with you?
Lou Zudavern wasn't on it yet.
Because I know that's who became Jim's guy for, I know, Titanic. He did a bunch
Oh
of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Later, but this was before he could afford Lou. Uh, and
Low price Lou is what they call
yeah,
it.
right. So I got to build things out of foam core and
He loves that. I mean, Lou built the entire, not only the Titanic, I guess for the original movie, but then he built a scale accurate, something like 6 or 8 foot long Titanic wreck that, off of LiDAR radar scans and photos. So when Cameron was going to dive the wreck, he said, well,
right.
we'll go. And I'm like, it's interesting to me. And I guess for a movie, it makes as much sense as I guess it does for an exploratory dive, because you don't want to run into issues you can foreseen in having a 3-dimensional model. Right. But I always find that I guess if it's from radar scans or something, it's fairly accurate.
And Lou is brilliant, and he can do anything.
Oh, it's not the model; it's just wanting a model.
Right. Well, you always, they want the toys. They want the toys.
Well, because I mean, no matter how big the model is, I mean, you can't put a camera with an accurate lens down there. It's like it'd be the lens the size of a VW bus, scale wise. So I guess it's more for planning, like, well,
we're going to go to this section and we're going to hang around here for.
It makes more sense for a movie for me, because like, well, this will be a matte painting and we'll actually build these sections. But for a dive,
but of course he'd already been there 2 times.
I know, that's what's weird. Is like, I guess just have him in his office anyway. I mean, I'm not throwing any shade at him.
Look, you can't impress the studio executives with tales about how you went down to see the Titanic. You have to show them a little model.
Oh, geez. I'm sure the first question is, oh, I thought it was much bigger. No, this is a scale model. Yeah. I can't tell you how many times. And these are people.
Is this a shipwreck for ants?
Yeah, exactly. But what's funny is that's not inaccurate. I'm sure we both have tales of, like a blue screen shot. Oh, I thought the background, I thought it was going to be mountains. Yeah, no, it'll be comped in. So we have to go. So when are we going to shoot that part? Oh no, it's a matte painting, or it's a thing. Oh, okay.
Oh, what's that?
One of my favorite, and this goes back. This is a story told to me in the screening room of Star Trek 4, talking about studio notes. Mm-hmm. And I forgot who. It might have been our DP. It might have been our editor. I think it was our editor, Peter. He said, and this was from some famous movie from the 40s or 50s, where some woman walks down a magnificent staircase in some gown, and she's recognized by polite society or the royals or whatever. And they were in the screening room looking at the movie, and one of the producers was like, oh, it's too bad we didn't get an over the shoulder shot. Look at kind of from from behind her, looking at the room while looking at her.
Right.
And they were like, yeah. And then one of the executive producers said, oh no, we just have to flip the negative. Flip the negative, yeah.
Oh my God. Wow.
So it's not new.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, I'll cut some slack for all the modern wizardry that computers can do now, and I understand, but I had people ask me, executives, again, look, if somebody's mom asks me a question that betrays a complete lack of knowledge about how things are done, doesn't bother me at all. I would never throw any shade, but
you got to stop talking to people's moms first.
Yeah, well, I'm at that age now. Hey, little girl, mom single. But executives whose job it is to greenlight or produce these things, and mainly not production or executives who are hired by networks or studios, not the people who actually get the work done, which are the people we usually interact with. But I remember one asked me 2 things. Oh, you worked on dinosaurs? Yes. And that was claymation. I said, no, that was people in costumes. Oh, I thought it was like stop motion, like claymation. I'm like, no, they're like Earl Sinclair is like 7 feet tall and weighs, Oh, how do they do that? So, well, that's what the Henson Company is really good at, is making life-size things that actually, but they move their face. And yeah, it's all radio control and cables.
Yeah.
Fascinating. And then what was
it's not play?
Oh, the same executive, when I told him I directed, at this point, I directed like 3 Muppet movies. She goes, oh, okay. Oh, right. So, but who directs the actors? I said, well, I do. I direct the whole thing. oh, I thought you just did the puppets, like the stop motion. And I'm like, what? No, they're hand puppets. They're real. When you see Kermit talking to a person, he's really there talking to a person. There's somebody under the camera. Oh, and you direct all of that. I'm like, yes, because they're really just performers underneath the puppets, and then they're talking to actors who don't have a puppet. So it's continually shocking to me. And again, that's kind of, as they say, real world stuff, not computer jiggery pokery, which even confuses me sometimes. Like, how the hell did you do that? But it's our business. It's our lot in life. We're made to suffer.
Thank you, 3PO. If everyone understood everything, then a lot of us would not have jobs.
Well, again, but it's sort of like if a person was producing automobiles. Like, I work for Ford, and I make sure that the new models are fascinating, interesting. You say, well, what kind of engine does it have?
A big heavy engine.
I think it's one of those that it's the kind that you put gas in. What was a V6? It's a big car, or V8. I don't know what it takes. I think it's gasoline.
I don't know how many eights it has, but
I just said if the film business would run like the auto industry, we'd still be on horses.
Right.
Because, Anyway, rant.
No, it's funny because look, the days of at least interesting production, certainly in Los Angeles, are done.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, you mean actual physical production as opposed to development and writing and meetings and design?
Yeah. I don't think that's coming back anytime soon.
Well, AI is.
It's just too expensive. First of all.
Well, yeah. I mean, Canada taken up in animation, which is what I've been working on the last almost 2 years now. First of all, stuff went to Atlanta and Canada for action. In terms of animation and VFX, it's all going to Canada and India now.
Right.
The show I'm working on, it's an animated thing for Nickelodeon. I'm on my second season as a director, which is great. I get to work at home. In fact, this is my job. I sit on Zoom and direct,
in front of a fireplace.
In front of a fireplace. I'm going to at least the beginning of next year because it's better than my blurry garbage pit that my office is. But the company that does the animation, so it's CG, we direct an Unreal Engine, which is amazing. So you kind of do the layout and you pick your camera angles and you move sort of chess pieces around. It's like here we go. I have an action figure near my desk. Is that surprising? So well, of course not. So you move them around just kind of
it's Ratfink.
It is Ratfink. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Daddy Roth. One of the reasons I love monsters. I also have a dude somewhere around here, Jeffrey Lebowski. So we move them around, pick the camera angles, and do coverage, and then our editor cuts it together like you would a movie, except people just kind of do this, and then we storyboard on top of that and send to India, and they animate over it. But the way they keep the cost down is these animators don't get a character or a scene; they get a shot, and it's literally a factory job. They don't know the shot before or the shot after, so they don't know if they're supposed to match anything. I mean, it's kind of shocking. So a lot of especially starting out, I think they've learned a shorthand with our animation tech director saying, okay, he's got to be looking this way. I mean, because it's tricky because the boards are loose. Drawings are more interpretive, where the CG model, but our problem is our CG models aren't making, they can't even turn their heads. So it's frustrating, but it's the way they get it done so cheaply. And they said they're getting these guys right out of high school,
right,
or whatever the equivalent is in India. So like 18, 19. And here's your computer, and you have any artistic ability, or how to work a computer because you played video games. Great, you're hired.
Well, it's the same age that we were when we started.
Yeah, so. No, it's not the age thing, but it's the lack of even training. It's
the lack of training and supervision.
It's really just a factory job. I mean, at least, not that animation has not always been a factory job, but because of usually back in the day, the animators would see what was the before, you'd get the paragraph before the one you were writing.
At least a frame before and a frame after.
Yeah. So it's interesting. But now AI, I mean, we could do an entire show about, or 5 shows about AI.
No, if we're going to do that, let's let AI do it.
You know what? We could literally do a show where we just take 3 of these episodes, take a few pictures of us. There's all the software now that create digital versions of us and see what it does. That would be a fun episode. The AI episode where they matches our voices.
Right.
I watch on YouTube daily now, if not weekly, if not daily, updates on what the AI is doing. And people are just, so they sit there and it's like this. Hey, this is not me. This is actually digital. And the hand movements and the voice. And there's 3 different softwares, which right now are all in beta and free. And these guys they give, I think it's 3 to 5 minutes of footage of you just sitting there talking, just reading. And then it will essentially clone you. And then either the same software or different fix your voice. Mm-hmm. And then you can you can either type in what you want to say, or you can go to AI and say, here's what I sound like. Right. I do a show with, Daren and I talking about, and, here are the 4 things you should talk about. That would be, I would say, let's make that around episode 10 and just see. Even if it's 5 minutes, it should be interesting.
Well, what our viewers don't know is that this is actually generated by AI.
That's not true.
What the hell's Matt Frewer going to do now?
Oh,
that's the question.
He's a sweet guy.
He is. That's why it's so sad that AI is taking his job.
Well, it's interesting. Nobody's tried that, or has somebody. I just missed it. They've done a. I just want people I don't want people to think I'm bald.
Well, you've gone full
gray.
Kenny Rogers now.
Yeah, that's right. Kenny Rogers, Kurt Russell. Who's the other one I get?
They're all KR.
Oh my God. And my middle initials are, so I'm KR, Kurt Randolph, Kenny Rogers, Kurt Russell.
Wow.
And you're double D's, which usually, never mind.
How dare you?
Means you're a big boob.
Thanks one to no one, dude.
You're the one I know. This kind of humor is what you can expect in every episode.
Well, I have action figures here too. I have my little Gene Roddenberry Mego.
Oh my God, I didn't know they made a Gene. What would he sound like? Wishing us a Merry Christmas.
Well, I'd like to wish everyone in the listening view a wonderful holiday season, and anything to get more money pouring into my coffers is a welcome end of the year. So may the good creative force bless us all, and thank you very much.
Wow, there you go. Does Rod need to approve that?
No, he's given me permission to do his dad's voice now. He has no choice, or else his dad will yell at him.
Rod, what are you doing, you idiot? What was I gonna say? About Gene. Did you ever meet him or work with him? Or
I never worked with him. I met him once.
Yeah, I met him a few times.
No, I take it back, twice, because I met him back in 1976 when he was doing a lecture at a local college in New Jersey, and I got to see him do his presentation with running the black and white cage episode and the blooper reels. So
I remember Con. So you and I have been going to conventions since I was like 12 or 13. You as well.
I was a little later. I didn't start going to cons till about 81.
Okay, I think I was 70s after Star Wars came out. I started going to LA Science Fiction Convention, maybe even before 76, 70s. I was 14, 15, and I put artwork in the art shows and just watch. And met Mike Jitlov there, who was an amazing guy. Lost touch with. I think he wanted to move to not Iceland. He wanted to move to Norway or Finland. He was an amazing. There was a genius.
I met him a couple times because I lived in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
Up
in the Hollywood Hills. Yeah.
Yeah, he was amazing. Of course, I knew about Wizard of Speed and Time and his.
Yeah, that's where I first saw it and was like, kind of blew my mind. I'm like, dude, that's amazing. And he was funny and clever, very intense.
He was very intense and very serious. And he at that point, he still wasn't shaking hands.
Yes, exactly. And I asked him. I mean, we became friends. He had my number. He called me a couple times to see if I wanted to help him on a shoot or something. And I remember when I got the Lucasfilm job on Jedi, he was very, that'll be great. That'll be great. Yeah, I really, really admire George. He, sticks to his guns. He doesn't do the whole Hollywood thing. Mike, this sort of intense. I've been to his
Yeah.
house. I met his mom. We worked. I was gonna work on something with him. Anyway, he was lovely, and I think the last time I saw him was a Bob Burns like 70th birthday or 60th birthday thing, and he was there, and we hung out afterwards, a bunch of us. But anyway, cons were so much Star Trek, and then Star Wars came along, and then they were like, then there were Star Wars cons and Star Trek cons, and then they sort of, Comic-Con sort of became the mothership of it's everything. And I went to Comic-Con in the 70s by accident. My family would vacation down at an area called Vacation Village. I forget what it's called now. It's this little kind of isthmus out in the bay with all these
it was an internment camp for Japanese
families.
Families.
Yeah. And so we were driving by the old hotel, the Conquistador, I think it was, and it said comic book convention, and I was like, oh my god.
Wow.
So my mom let me wander around for like an hour, and so then I had the next time I went was probably in the mid '80s. But yeah. But anyway, Star Trek and Star Wars conventions were so much less popular with the general public. They were not. They were you and I, and it was mainly male, and the females were there were very, very, I don't want to use nerdy as a pejorative because I was, but they were not the cosplay girls with the Betty Page figures or
they were like the guys. They were quiet and
intellectual and smart, but
yeah.
they loved a good sense of humor. A good pun could get you a lot of
easy.
No, I was saying get you a lot of credit,
right?
Get you a lot of tail.
Yeah.
No, I was an incel at that point. I was like 14, 15. I didn't know what to do. If a naked woman showed up, people like, I'd probably cry and run. Now, I don't do that anymore, at least since I was 50. Well, I don't run. I still cry. Mainly out of gratitude. You took your clothes off.
It's funny because I met Mike Chitlove at the same time that I met Angelique Pettyjohn.
Oh yeah, she was interesting.
She was, I believe, selling Xeroxes at that time.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Anyway, when you said naked woman, that's what I thought.
I met Angelique Pettyjohn, and I guess she was kind of a softcore actress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After Star Trek.
Yeah. I heard stories that I'm not going to share in the public space about her and Grace Lee Whitney.
Well, bless them both.
Yes, and they were always complimentary, but that they were very attractive.
Yeah. Well, remember, those were different times.
Oh yeah,
totally different times.
Yeah, no kidding. First of all, guys like us, we'd have it made.
Yeah, we missed
guys like us, we'd have it made. Those were the days. That should be our theme song. Except we just have to change the lyrics. What would it be like? Let's see. How did it start? Oh, boy, the way Glenn Miller played. Okay. Boy, the way Steve Miller played.
Oh my God. Tell you what, you work on those lyrics.
I will.
And I'll work on my Edith Bunker.
Okay. All right, Daren. All right there, Daren. You couldn't make that show, even though the show was about. That's an interesting thing. That again, another whole show about how when you do satire, the slower kids in the room don't get that it's satire. It's the classic thing of eat the poor. What was that? Jonathan Swift,
right?
Eat the poor. And people get outraged. Remember Dinosaurs? We did an episode about throwing your mother-in-law off a cliff because she was old,
right? And
she'd slow down the herd, and the young son was like, "Why do we do that? We're not herd animal, or we're not nomadic animals anymore. We have houses a lot." And I remember the Gray Panthers only read the TV guide blurb, like Earl is excited about throwing his aged mother-in-law off a cliff, and they wanted to boycott the show and say that we were an example of ageism. And so I find that everything is so triggering. I think we're gonna swing back to like you can make jokes about stuff if you are of the culture, race, or gender identity. You can be, it's like the N-word, although I even think that amongst the Black community is pretty much frowned upon, but still used commonly with Canadians and stuff. But the only thing we can make, you and I can make jokes about is like presidents and pedophiles and mass shooters, because they were all white men. It's
Yeah.
But it's hard for comedy or satire, I should say, because I mean that's what All in the Family was. It was a comedy, but it was really a satire
Right.
on modern thinking versus old school
On stereotype personalities. Yeah.
right. Yeah, and nobody would come in defensive of Archie Bunker saying, well, that's a stereotype.
Right.
Well, that's what's funny. And I'm not saying poor me, middle-aged white guy, but it's funny even just pitching comic. That's still part of my life is pitching, original ideas. And I find it harder and harder unless I make a point. It's like, and there's a gay character, there's a trans character,
right.
and that's to show that, and the humor around it is about their experience. And of course, we will have a gay writer, a trans, I have friends who are trans. And so, but you have to kind of say to not get canceled for even pitching that,
right.
I mean, outside of that, you just can't pitch anything because they don't want shows about middle-aged white guys.
That's true. I mean, I don't necessarily either.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying if the rule is you really write what or what your cultural, right. Sexual identity you can do. I mean, I can write about Northern Europeans. I mean, I've even thought about doing a thing about Vikings because
yeah.
that I can do.
Yeah, and well, they're coming. They're coming for cancellation. The funny thing is that I disagreed with everything that Archie Bunker stood for. Well, everything.
That was the point. He was the bad guy.
But I understand him.
Yes.
Completely.
Well, because he was not a cartoon character. He was painted as a guy from the previous generation,
right.
who would just be like, I remember I just watched an episode where Jefferson's, what was it? His son was going to marry a white girl. Lionel, yes, was marrying a white girl. And I guess, was marrying a black girl, but the girl's father, I think, was white. That was it. And George, threw a rod, was like, no, and Louise is like trying to, George, that's not appropriate. And Bunker's just watching like, oh, you're gonna love this, Jefferson. How does it feel? And and so they at least punched both ways.
Yeah.
In other words, he could be a racist too.
Right.
And so it did kind of level the playing field. But I thought Modern Family did a good job of it. If you watch that show,
I never watched Modern Family.
It was fun.
Sort of missed me.
I mean, if we're going to use the term woke, but the big thing was there was a gay couple who had adopted a daughter from China, which is very common if you live in LA. There are a lot of people who have, not just gay couples, just couples. If you're going to adopt a kid, a lot of them were girls from China.
Right.
And so, and then there was Jay Pritchett, who was, what's his name from the Fox show? I could say all of Married with Children.
Right.
What was his name? Oh, jeez. See, it's because it's vodka.
That's not vodka.
You'll never know. No, it's not. I wouldn't be able to talk. Anyway, that guy plays kind of the Archie Bunker. Like he's like,
right.
He's fine that his son is marrying a man, but he's a little awkward about it. So they kind of, it was a little more gentle than, he wasn't an out and out racist. And his wife, his young wife was Sofia Vergara, who's, Latina and beautiful.
Right.
And
she is?
She is. She's beautiful. Yeah.
I didn't know she was Latina. I just thought that
was an act.
She couldn't speak.
Wow. Whoa. You're going to get canceled for that.
Probably.
Anyway, interesting world we live in. I have been told, I don't know if your side of the fence within design and all that, but I've been told multiple times that they would hire me if I weren't a white male.
Right. I've heard that.
I mean, right to my face. And I mean, they're friends in the business, usually at Disney. But also, and some, the Star Wars umbrella and the Marvel umbrella, they've told me, just as episodic directors, like, look, I'm not trying to be James Gunn. I just want to direct episodes.
Right.
Yeah, it's really hard right now. There's a checklist and you ain't on it. And
right.
Part of me is like, well, fuck. And the other part of me is like, well, I get it. I mean, when you hear about how people of color were treated, just even buying houses and mortgages and all the just nightmare stuff they've been through, it's like, well, yay, but also does it have to be a zero-sum game? Like, does it mean? And it does, because there's not that many jobs.
Right. Well, on my side of the industry, I just don't hear from anybody. They don't tell me why.
Right.
It's just there's just nothing. So
Do you
that's how that goes.
have you ever tried having an agent or for that kind of stuff?
No, no, I've never had an agent for
Well,
35 years.
I've tried, and they're 90% of it is, I mean, they take the money of the jobs I get.
Yeah.
I was approached, kind of, wooed by Endeavor back in the day when I had a pretty high six-figure guarantee for 3 years at Henson when they had this deal with Disney. So basically, the Disney ABC money part of it was portioned out to me as a creator. And they wooed me. They had dinner with me a couple times, and their thing was, I said, well, yeah, I'm happy to have you guys represent me, but you wouldn't get the deal I already have that's done.
Right.
Well, that's how it works. Like, we all share and share alike. And then what I said was like, so great. So you're going to give me 10% of all the money you make.
Yeah.
All the jobs that you get. And he's like, well, no, that's how. I said, but then why would I do it? And I mean, and it's just, I have to say, I just let go of an agent who was a lovely person, but Pixar called her because she had my name on her roster. She was a con. She represented me at conventions.
Right.
So they just Googled my name and her place showed up, and she called me and said, hey, Pixar wants to hire you to do a voice gig. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And so she, demanded 10% of the money. I said, well, okay, but you just answered the phone and then played in between, like, oh, they want you to be here. I was like, I can talk, whatever. And I was just like, and I'm back in that same thing. It's like, just because you answer the phone, doesn't mean I should.
You got 10%. Me the job.
To give me. I mean, what's your incentive for doing anything then? You just take 10% of my money because you put my name on your website. And that again was a con agent. It had nothing to do with voiceover acting or anything.
And I guarantee you that if there was another sort of writer, director, or voiceover person on their list that Pixar might be interested in, she would have no qualms about getting them the gig.
Yeah, I'm not trying to cast aspersions on her character. I get it. Just sort of fell in her lap. And then she was like, this is great. I want to do more of this. I'm like, but again, maybe nice. You're saying, what is it you did?
Yeah.
You had my name and face on your website and you answered the phone or an email. And that's great. But, I have a website too. I don't know why they didn't just. Also, people at Pixar know me, but I guess the producer director didn't know that I knew them, so they just found me, or his, he went to an assistant, get me Kirk.
Well, they want to be careful that they're doing the due diligence,
I know,
and
I get it.
That's understandable, but still,
agents. I think agents. My experience is agents are great at saying no. If you're successful enough where you need to turn down work,
right,
that's where they're helpful. I'm trying to get acting, writing, and directing agent right now, or two different for on-camera voiceover, and then and it's just basically, are you working right now? Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, what are you working? I'm directing animation. Oh yeah, we don't do that. Yeah, I know.
Right.
That's why I want an agent that doesn't do that, because I already have that. It's funny. I was talking to other people in the business about our age. I was talking to a good friend of mine who's an Oscar-winning makeup artist.
Yeah.
Or Emmy-winning. Oscar-nominated, I think. Anyway, we were talking about kids coming. Well, I want to do what you do. I want to make creatures. And we both said our real advice, without being a Grinch, is like, don't. There won't be any work in it. I just saw, this is amazing. AI did a digital makeup on an actor or an actress for a short film, and there's a YouTube about how they did it. And it was just an actress, and she's talking, and just there's no green screen or anything. They don't even have tracking markers on her face. And they turn her into a zombie, and it totally is glued to her. It does not look digital. It looks like someone spent 2 hours, 3 hours making her up into a gray, rotting zombie. And it was done with this, what we were talking about earlier, AI beta software.
Right.
There's a whole YouTube thing about how this guy did it. And I'm like, that, and it was for a short film. I'm like, oh. And he was saying, yeah, he's gonna, he's our age, so he's probably gonna retire in the next 5 years, or learn ZBrush and learn how to do it. And that's basically most of my advice to kids 18 to 25 is learn how to do stuff on the computer, learn Unreal Engine.
Absolutely.
It's learn Photoshop. That's still valid, but there's this new software coming out where learn how to write prompts.
Right. Oh my God. It's crazy.
I love it. I mean, I know a lot of people hate it. I hate the part about it stealing, from artists.
Yeah.
But I do love the video stuff where it takes what you give it, and again, it can create you and I virtually with 3 minutes of footage, or you can take 4 pictures of something and it'll create a model of that down to what you used to have to do a whole scanning thing and clean up the data. That part excites me. I mean, with Unreal Engine and a couple pieces of software, I could do a short film with either creatures or actors or whatever, and it could look cinematic if you want. I think.
Well, it seems to me that the thing to be now is an agent for AI.
Well, AI, it's interesting. I mean, nobody's an agent for Maya or Adobe. I mean,
but they are. People who work at both those companies are agents for Maya and Adobe, because they go to visual effects houses and things, and they get ensconced in the pipelines, so they are always used. But I'm only halfway joking about being an AI agent, because there has to be some kind of method for getting these softwares known and used, and there has to be some kind of mechanic for that.
Well, yes. So here's the big question for you and I and people of our ilk, or people who want to be creatives in the entertainment industry. Where do you go from here? You don't need to know how to paint or draw. You need to know, probably I would say you need to know design and color theory, so you can just make good choices, but you don't have to actually be able to. If you can sculpt, that's still useful. If you can, digitally, I would say more than with your hands, unless you're going to be I mean, there's always going to be prop makers and people are going to have to build some part of a set, but it's those jobs. It's like being a character designer, a previs artist now. 5 years, if you're not Ryan Meinerding or a few other guys, just you literally type in AI, I want something in the style of Ryan Meinerding or Frank Frazetta or whatever.
Thing is, and a bunch of friends of mine who are concept artists were talking about this a couple months ago, that producers and directors are very specific in things that they want. And at least now, there is no way to get AI to give them exactly what they want.
No, it has to be curated, of course. Right. But you don't need 8 AI. You don't need 8 previs artists. You probably get by with 2.
Right.
How to curate
But you still need someone who can draw and design.
That's what I mean.
Give them what they want.
That's what I'm saying. You still need to learn principles of art design. So, but that's so open-ended, or so, learn what good art is. Learn, that.
Well, and that's what's making people get back to basics now. I think that is actually going to happen.
So I read Buckminster Fuller's book, Operating Manual for Spaceship Earth, when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. One of the things that really struck home with me is be a generalist, don't be a specialist.
Yep.
Specialists' careers live and die by, the wins. If you're a generalist, and that's why I kind of went and moved into directing, because that's the ultimate generalist job. I mean, with writers, actors, directors, writers, actors, art directors, production designers, sound people. And you're just kind of a generalist. It's like, well, here's what I want it to do.
Yeah, you have to manage all those arts.
And it's great if you have ADHD. you never get that, like, I'm bored with this. But so it's interesting, because I used to say, learn Maya 10 years ago. Learn Maya, learn Photoshop, learn Premiere, learn Avid. Now I'm like, boy, learn to sculpt, draw, and paint. Or even learn what good sculpting, drawing, and painting is. But will there be in 5 years people are like, that guy writes great prompts?
Yeah, right.
I mean, because there's a whole thing. Again, I watch YouTube daily.
Now the award for best prompts goes to
exactly. Oh, let's talk about new movie. Have you seen Godzilla -1?
I saw it yesterday,
and
I freaking loved it.
I loved it too.
It was unbelievable and so well done and so human.
Absolutely, but that was the one, and I think it's cultural. The passion that the main character has, without any giveaway,
right?
When something upsets him, he bangs his head on a table, he cries like he's giving birth, and it's like that. It put me out of the movie a little bit.
He's like Don Music.
Yes, it's so over the top, and I kept going. Again, because it's a foreign culture and a foreign movie, I accepted it as much kind of like you do in an Indian musical where people are suddenly like, like, oh, okay, I get that's a meme of sort. But that's the one thing that I bought the emotion. It didn't seem forced, but it just seems so much. I mean, he literally went to 11. Probably that's all he did. There was never a 9. There was never a
right.
I'm sad. It was like, ah, screaming and crying. And
he's a little bit over the top, but I think everyone else in the film,
it was amazing,
spot on.
So like the buddies that he has.
Oh my God!
And the woman, the kind of bitter woman who becomes like an auntie. Again, no spoilers, but they're all great, that's what made him stand out more. Is like, oh my God, somebody bring. I mean, if I was directing, like, oh, just bring it back about 10-15%.
Bring him down a notch.
Yeah, it didn't wreck the movie for me because the rest of it, like you said, everyone, the supporting cast and the humanity of it and that camaraderie between the fishermen, and I loved it.
Yeah, it's so well done, and the fact that it was made for what, $15 million. I'm guessing it was a little more.
Yeah,
but it's so well done. And
well, as a friend of mine said, it makes up for it makes up in sequels for Indiana Jones 5.
I guess.
Well, in terms of like how unappealing that was, I wouldn't say bad, but it wasn't good.
I have no urge to see that again, but I do want to see.
Oh, yeah, I want to buy it in 4K and like watch it. Even just there's a couple effect shots that are a little, but it doesn't. It's just so well done, and you care. I mean, like you said, the humanity of it. You really care about these people.
Yeah.
And the thing that I literally broke out in goosebumps. And I think I jumped up out of my seat when they started playing the original Godzilla score.
Yes.
I'm getting goosebumps now just remembering, like, oh my God. And then when he pulls the train up, the commuter train.
Right.
And it's a shot for shot, or not shot for shot, but motion for motion from the original Godzilla, where he's taking it, tearing apart. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. And that's as a monster movie nerd, that really just, again, that's probably a deeper cut than most average viewers, but man, that got me.
Absolutely. So does the -1 mean it's the prequel?
I actually asked that amongst friends, and we even Googled it, and they said, yes, it's not a prequel because it basically overlaps the original Godzilla movie.
It's a reboot.
Yeah, but it was -1. There was some reasoning behind it. It was more, like, because it was after the bomb. I don't know. It was kind of a little ephemeral. I was like, oh, okay, and it maybe doesn't translate. Because we all had the same question. Why is it -1? But I loved the other thing I loved, which is a little bit of a spoiler, but the 2 versions, like the younger version.
Yes.
When he hits the island, and
yes,
I just thought it was great. I didn't realize how much. Somebody posted, said the picture said the original Godzilla, and it's a marine iguana from the Galapagos. And I didn't realize the texture on their heads and everything and the skin was so much influence. I didn't think of that. There's a picture of a marine iguana. I think it's one of the marine iguanas, and he just looks like, oh my God, that's Godzilla as a baby, or the fins on the back and everything.
Right.
Oh crap! I didn't realize he was that much of an inspiration for Gojira. Yeah, that was great.
But it was so satisfying on many levels.
The other movie I'm told is Poor Things.
Yeah.
So this is great with Yorgos. Well, I can't pronounce his last name. Yeah, Raman Lakramanthos, whatever.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's supposed to be great.
That's another one on the list for best visual effects.
Really?
Yeah.
I know they use the screen, the cove, kind of, what do you call it?
The volume.
The volume a lot. I didn't know that what we do not what we do in the shadows. Our Flag Means Death was all done in the volume.
Yeah. Yeah.
It looked amazing. I loved that show.
Yep.
It was shot really well. I love that. That's one series that I loved as much as What We Do in the Shadows. And now I'm watching 30 Coins, Tinta Monedas, out of Spain.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Oh, it's on Max if you get HBO Max.
Yeah.
It's tremendous. It's very gothic, very Catholic. demon horror, Satan, Lucifer,
Old school.
Yeah, but well done with a very the creator has a deep love of the genre. In fact, there's a doctor in season 2, and his name was Dr. Giraud. And I said, oh, I bet that's an homage to Mobius.
Yeah,
and then
no
in like
doubt.
episode 2 or 3, they say, yes, Dr. Jean Giraud. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
it is. It literally
It
is
is
Mobius.
Mobius.
And there's a bunch of Easter eggs that if you're a monster movie fan or a horror movie fan, you'll get a kick out of. There's a scene where a character is admitted to a mental hospital, and all these other people who've been through this nightmare of a black mass in their town, and they're trying to summon, I guess the great coming of the Lucifer the second or something, or the Antichrist, and they're all going, one of us, we one of us, one of us. I'm like, oh man, that's great. The second season has a lot more. It seems like they're having a little more fun with that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But if you like kind of, there's some gore. There's actually some pretty graphic stuff in it. But if you like your horror less stabby, slashy, more, Exorcist meets Guillermo del Toro. It's very Guillermo del Toro. I put it that. And the creatures are fun. So
if you like that,
give a thumbs up for fans of that kind of stuff, because I'd seen it and I watched the first episode and thought, okay, it's in Spanish, which isn't horrible to navigate, and you can get it dubbed or you can just watch the subtitles. But it's fun, and it really except there's some soap opera parts, but it's not. It's like Game of Thrones in terms of like you get into all these characters, and it's not that deep. But
as a telenovela,
yeah, with romance and monsters and demons and Lucifer and very interesting take on the Catholic Church, and even interesting take on God and heaven and hell, and the premise that there's a speech given by this one character 2/3 of the way through, I think, the first season, and about evil. God created evil. It's not, and so he did that. So because without evil, then goodness is just.
You need checks and balances.
Yeah, and so the whole point is like God sends the demons ultimately, or he allows them, and you're like, whoa, that's like it's great take for this kind of story. Because there's this character, I believe he's Lucifer, who is a fallen angel, and his whole thing is like, I'm doing God's work. Like I'm not the bad guy. I do the bad things, but I'm doing God's work. And you're like, whoa, that's heavy.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
And then the scenes in hell get more and more interesting with. Yeah, I don't know. I really like it. I can't recommend it enough. Those are my recommendations. Our Flag Means Death, What We Do in the Shadows. The one I don't recommend, which I love, Fargo. The new season of Fargo is great.
Yeah.
But Monarch is disappointing.
Oh yeah, I haven't had a chance to watch that yet.
Kurt Russell is great, and then there's these bratty 20-year-olds who are just so annoying, and they're just miserable people. And I remember that one episode came out, like episode 4 or 5, which is basically it's their money saving one, where basically characters talking about their feelings.
Yeah.
And these kids are just such miserable little shits, and they're kids. They're in their 20s, mid 20s, but they're just all hung up on their own bullshit and just angry and bitter, and you're like, oh, shut up, get back to Godzilla. You never prayed so hard for kaiju.
Oh my goodness.
And then Kurt Russell's great. I mean, he's just always great. That's a career.
I like Kurt Russell. I still am wanting to see the perfect vehicle for Kurt Russell, because there hasn't been one yet.
Wasn't the computer wore tennis shoes?
Well, that was quite a long time ago.
It was like 45 years. But I grew up, Kurt Russell was my, like, that's the guy. He was my Harrison Ford before Harrison Ford. Is like,
right,
that guy's cool. He's only like 12 years older than we are. But like, he was funny and cool, and he was good looking, but he wasn't so good looking. You're like, well, I could never,
Right.
And he was great as Jack, what was his name?
Jack Burton.
Jack Burton in the Pork Chop Express.
Yeah.
He was great in The Thing. He just has these great, it's like he and Jeff Bridges have these kind of roles where like, okay, I think he's had some great roles that really, he
has, but they haven't been iconic,
Oh,
they haven't been, but no one has seen Big Trouble in Little China.
Well, our ilk have.
Yeah, but we don't count anymore.
Well, I don't know. Comic-Con says differently, but that movie wasn't a huge hit when it came out.
No, never.
But there's a great, that's his Lebowski character. You know what I mean? Where it's kind of somewhat
Yeah, I can see
self-referential.
that. I can see that.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, he needs what he needs is his. I mean, he did that Santa Claus movie or two of them now, I guess,
Right.
or Amazon. I forget. I haven't seen them, but I
No,
mean,
he needs his Godfather.
or I was going to say his True Grit,
Yeah.
when Jeff Bridges did Rooster Cogburn.
Yeah.
Like, wow,
Yeah.
that's the last third of his career kind of icon, and yeah, I don't think
Yeah,
Monarch.
I agree.
Although he looks fucking great. I mean, he looks healthy as hell in Monarch, and in the
Well,
Santa
let's
Claus.
hope so. There's some talk that he might be going to play Centauri in the remake of Last Starfighter.
Well, interesting. I mean, that'd be a good role for him. I don't know. Last Starfighter is again kind of a deep cut niche. I don't know.
It is. It is.
I
But
heard.
it's one of those things that has been threatening to be rebooted or remade for years and years, and it just never has gotten motion.
Did you see the? I think it's Kurt. It's Kurt Russell reading for Han Solo. Have you seen those black and
Oh
white?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like
Absolutely.
that would have been interesting.
It would have been interesting. I think that it would have been wrong, and I think he
I,
would have been distracting because
yeah,
too many people knew him.
I agree. I think it was interesting though. But like, what is okay? If you were going to cast Kurt Russell in any role that you think he would have done either better or that would have made him, I mean, I mean, he's great in Overboard. That's a great vehicle for him.
Absolutely. It's not a great movie, but it's
fun.
fun.
I mean, was that Gary Marshall? Gary Marshall. Seems like a Gary Marshall movie, if it wasn't.
Well, I don't remember.
Um, Kurt Russell's best role. I mean, True Grit. At this point, he could have done it.
Yeah.
He doesn't look as. I mean, Jeff Bridges looks so weasened to that movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Grizzled, not weazened, but grizzled.
Well, I think you can be both.
Oh, you know what his iconic role is from not in nerddom is Tombstone. People love that one.
I agree.
And it's a flawed movie, but that is his. I think high point of characters that
he's great and stands out in a crap movie.
Yeah, in a crap. He and Val Kilmer
Yeah.
steal their scenes, and it was a mess, I guess, to shoot. I've read.
Yeah.
Now there's all the stories about it, and what I guess two directors or the.
Yeah, the first one was fired, and then I think George Cosmatos came.
Yeah, George Cosmatos.
Or is it the opposite of that?
Something like
that. But yeah, I mean, all these, there were two OK Corral movies being made at the same time. That one and the one
not Silverado, but
with no, the director of Silverado.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course my brain is gone.
It was well, it's Christmas Eve, man. We've been drinking all that eggnog.
Gignog?
Gignog. Do you put bourbon in your eggnog? Do you drink eggnog?
I just drink eggnog from the fridge from the.
I do too, but if you put a little Elijah Craig in there, put a little bit of Buffalo Trace, makes quite delicious.
Bring some of that holiday eggnog.
Bing Crosby. I think we should end by singing the Bing Crosby, David Bowie, Little Drummer.
Oh my God, that's wonderful. Oh, rum pum pum pum.
Peace on earth, goodwill towards men. That'll be next Christmas. We'll rehearse that. We just did, speaking of singing, we did 12 of us got together to sing a friend happy birthday because he makes these beautiful little 4-part harmonies. He's a great singer. Yeah. And it's a little 4-part harmony. I guess it's a iPhone app where you record yourself 4 times and you just re-listen and sing with yourself.
Oh, that's cool.
And so he does it for everyone's birthday. And so we said, we got to do this for him. And his birthday was today. So there's 12 of us, but 12 different people. Where there's no music, somebody just started with one guy singing, and we did a little riff on an ELO song. It's a living thing. What is it? Yeah. So it starts with that and then turns into happy birthday, but 12 people. And then we found out if you don't have the hardwired earbuds on your iPhone,
right,
play with the Bluetooth earbuds.
Oh my goodness.
So I tried to just kind of be a beat off, or a moment.
The app is called Cacophony.
Yeah, it's called acapella, but it should be. So what's weird is, I was thinking, well, at least we'll on happy birthday, because then it turns into happy birthday.
Right.
Somebody, and I don't know if it's intentional or not, sounds like there's a football game going on. I don't know if they did it with the TV on or something.
Probably.
So we're also you can just hear.
Oh my God.
Or somebody did it because we sounded so bad, and they go, "Well, now we have an excuse." Anyway, yeah. So we'll do that next year. Well, you and I'll take 2 parts.
Nice.
We'll clear the decks. So on Apple, where people can hear this? I don't know where we're going to put this up.
We're gonna be the Weirded Beardos. Will be on Apple, and it's gonna be part of the Trexperts network.
Okay, so and, we are attached to that.
Yeah, because there's an infrastructure for that. Okay. And they can search for us. I mean, I think the first one we're going to have to put out our feelers on, Instagram and everywhere we're at.
Yeah, of course. Everyone wants
to let people know.
I
think I'm going to put this, at least this first one, up on YouTube so that people can get introduced to it and look at our lovely mugs.
So we'll be with
hold up your mug again. Yeah. Yeah, that's a lovely mug.
I love that I disappear. It's like a Ghost and Mrs. Muir gag.
You're like in Harry Potter. You hold up the magical beer stein, and you disappear.
Hold on, there you go.
There you go. Put the hat on. That's a lovely.
Actually an official Harry Potter. Wow. Boop. I touch my hat, Terry, and I disappear. That's amazing.
You look like General Tso.
And here's my chicken. I've been choking
right.
the whole time. No.
Easy.
No.
That can't be proved. So anyway.
Anyhow.
Thanks for hanging with us for an hour.
This is what we do all the time, and we figured let's record it for posterity or for our posteriors. Yeah.
And we're gonna go all over the place, but hopefully within that you'll find some interesting nuggets.
Yeah, topics besides Muppets and Star Trek and Star Wars and Gremlins, but those are fine too.
Those are fine too.
And Master and Commander and the Abyss and
Addams Family.
Family. Oh, I didn't know you worked on Addams Family.
Yeah, the second one.
Yeah, with Chris, not Chris Lloyd. Well, he was in it.
Yeah, Chris Lloyd was in it.
No, I know he was in both. What's her face? Who I worked with? Joan Cusack.
Joan Cusack was in it.
Yeah, that was
Christine Baranski and.
Yeah. Those were fun. Did Barry do the second one or just the first?
Yep.
I got to hang with Barry Sonnenfeld for a day.
He's an odd bird, but I like him.
I mean, he's very New York. He's like one of those guys that complains about the bagels in the water in LA.
Right.
But then move back to New York. But we had a great conversation about wide angle lenses. And I said, look, when I saw Raising Arizona, I mean, I love that movie so much.
Right.
Like, who shot that? And he was very, thank you. I said, but wide angle lenses are great with the puppets.
Right.
Because they make, a wide angle lens, and the puppet is here and a person's here. They shrink down and look more, they don't look like a giant talking to a 2-year-old.
Right.
And it makes a Muppet look like it's actually crossing a room as opposed to doing bounce, bounce, bounce 2 feet.
Right.
It looks, if they're running away from camera, dun, 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 dun.
Right.
Yeah. So he was like, oh, that's interesting. I said, yeah, I mean, I think they are the lens of comedy and action because it gives everything punch. It makes everything more cartoony, which is why I think Raising Arizona looks so much like a Bugs Bunny cartoon.
Well, and the most used lens by Kubrick.
Which was what? Which one? The 12 or an 18?
Like a 12 or even sometimes an 8.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about this next time. We'll talk about lenses and directors and wide angle lenses. I mean, no,
we can get as inside baseball as anybody wants.
I will tease it in that the show that I've been directing on Nickelodeon in Unreal Engine, where you can pick lenses, I shot so much on an 8mm lens that it kind of broke the system because it showed stuff
because it needs to have so much information in the frame.
Well, yes, but it makes our character designs. They're like Snoopy characters, like Charlie Brown characters, like 2 heads high, like they're very big heads and tiny bodies. So again, like the Muppets, when you want to make them not look like they're just bouncing up and down on a pogo stick, put an 8 on there, and it has dynamics, you know. But then they'd animate on top of it, and the boards don't take into account because our characters were these, stick figures.
Yeah.
So when you draw someone punching somebody on an 8mm lens, like the fist is like that, although the board looks like this. So yeah, they've said, okay, only for real wide, like shots where you don't have characters in the foreground and or like they're standing, like a cowboy shot,
right,
through the legs or something. But yeah, all right, that's a teaser for next week.
Yeah. In a future episode, we're going to talk about board artists who knew their lenses.
Oh, they are few and far between.
Because they are few now. That's for sure.
Yeah, there's one guy who I try to get all the time because A, he knew how to draw the Muppets, and B, he knows what a lens is and how. That's my biggest complaint in general, is not knowing. And even for production, I mean, production designers kind of do. The old guys do, because that's all it was lenses. Yep. That's what made or broke stuff. Oh yeah, we can cut real deep into this stuff.
Yeah. So join us.
Talk about
next time.
Talk about boobs and beer and bourbon.
All that is related, and that's what's so great about it.
Well, Merry Christmas,
Merry Christmas,
Daren.
everybody. Merry Christmas.
Kirk. I'm sure you're all listening to this maybe before New Year, so Happy New Year's if you're listening to it then. If not, well, we hope you're having a great 2024.
Absolutely, and may your way be as pleasant. And join us next time.
Live long and punk rock.